Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Kryptonite Show. A special second show on today, so I hope you guys enjoy it. PulseChain, Richard Hart, we're going to talk about it. We're going to deep dive into the charts for PulseChain, of course, PLS, PulseX, the big DEX on PulseChain, PLSX, and of course, the incentive token, the farming incentive token on PulseX, as well as, of course, HEX, the first, of course, CD in the market, certificate of deposit. I always call it supercharged, of course. And we're going to look at HEX on both Ethereum, the Genesis chain, and of course on PulseChain, the full system stake fork from the 10th of May 2023. And of course, PulseChain HEX has been doing very well since then. Obviously, we're going to look at where it is right now and look where it could go to in the future. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. We're going to focus especially in on Richard Hart and the PulseChain cause. It should be a lot of fun. Now, before we do that, of course, don't forget to get out on X and share the channel around. It really does help a lot. And so I would appreciate that. So let's get into it. And don't forget to get in the chat as well. Let me know your thoughts about where we are right now, because obviously we have, we're 24th September, 23rd September, depending where we are in the world. And so we've still got a week to go before September closes. We could see a big reversal in September and get I guess, an unexpected bullish close for many people. And of course, October is normally Uptober. And so we're going to have a hyper rally there in for the Q4 and begin that banana roll on altcoin season, which we saw get signaled only about a week ago. But we will see. We've still got all the Ethereum buying that we're expecting. So Ethereum should be in pretty good stead. And we've seen BNB rocking up as well, over $1,000. So got lots of good things happening. We saw obviously manipulation on Sunday in the US time. And so that caused a bit of stir. But stock market's still looking pretty good. So we're going to see where Richard Hart calls are going. I've seen a little bit of comments from Richard Hart around certain things. Obviously, I don't know where that's all coming from. It sort of just came out of the blue. Maybe you guys know what it is that he's talking about, but that's out there too. And yeah, let's see where we can go from here. Now, earlier today in the live stream, I covered the gaming boom that's just emerging on PulseChain. You guys know we need lots of different catalysts to make PulseChain successful. And of course, some of those are around Richard Hart, of course, as well. And excuse me. So yeah, it's going to be pretty fun to see where everything goes. We're going to talk about it all today. Should be very good. Very nice, as we say, very nice. In fact, let me pull up a presentation that I've been using from now, every now and then. We'll see if we can pull it up too while we're here. Wasn't even going to talk about it. I'm just pulling it up now, live, and doing it live, which will be pretty fun. If I can find it, that is, I got to find it first. This always happens when you do something on the fly, and you're like, oh, where's it gone? Where's it gone? I can't even see it, actually, to be honest. I don't even know where the application is. It should be there. I can't even find the application. It's hilarious. Oh, there we go. Found it. We did it, guys. We did it. Oh, we got USA Mail in house there. I like your little Liberty, Statue of Liberty there, and the fries as well. You're in all those. You're in Liberty Swap and fries. World Liberty fries there. World Liberty fries. I see you put that together. Took me a second to put that together with the World and the Liberty and the fries. There we go. World Liberty flies. USA is in the house there. That thing is everywhere. Everyone's going everywhere. Now, a good example of getting your meme coin out is World Liberty fries. They are everywhere. They're even popping up in other people's telegrams groups, posting their own shilling thing. I don't know how long that lasts, but they're definitely out there doing all their stuff for meme coins. As you guys know, he who memes wins, right? He who memes wins. And of course, we're going to have a bit of a battle of that. Now, you can see I've got a bit of my Superman curl on today. Look at that. Superman curl, a little bit there today. Sometimes it's really amazing looking, and other times it's like not there. But it's there today. The old Superman. Okay. Let's get into some of the cool stuff there. Let me pull up this presentation. What's that old one I had there? Got an old one? Oh, no, it's something. Oh, yeah, it's a secret one there. Can't show that one. Not the secret presentation. Can't do that. But let's pull this up, shall we? Presenter view, and I'll do presenter view on that. And I can't even remember. I think it's pretty relevant. Anyway, things that are not fully up to date, I'll update just verbally. How about that? That's what we'll do. But we'll do that at the end. So we're going to go through a lot of cool stuff. If you haven't, of course, subscribed on YouTube, excuse me. I don't know why I'm starting to get this throat thing. Maybe it's because of my second live stream. Yeah, if you go to YouTube, smash the subscribe button. We're on The Kryptonite Show, Superman Crypto, and PulseChain X, 3 YouTube channels. And of course, on X, don't forget the follow button as well. Rebuilding our channel on X because they took it down for no good reason. Typical thing. Get the same thing with YouTube. It is actually pretty difficult. You think streaming's easy, but you're actually up against the platform. You're up against the platform. It can be challenging. And of course, they can take the whole channel down like that in an instant. And then you hear crickets. You hear crickets. So it is a tough place to be in the old influencer space. All right. Shall we get into the charts with Pulse? And we might look at Richard Hutt's stuff later on. It's sort of interpretive dance. Interpretive dance is the recent posts. But we'll get into PulseChain and kick it off there. And we're going to look at the weekly charts in particular. Should we go full screen? I don't know what it's going to look like, but let's go full screen. It's not too bad, is it? Is that better than mid-screen? Let's go mid-screen. That's mid-screen. It's not quite as big as it, but let's go full screen, shall we? So full screen there, and there's weekly candles. I don't know if you can see the full beginning of the week, but we'll push that in there. How about that? Movie magic. The crowd goes wild. They do. I must admit, it was an easy trick. A trick of the mouse, as they say. But anyway, bad jokes aside, we've got, we had all these run-ups. Look at that run-up we had on the old PulseChain there. Weekly candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 weeks in a row, and everyone thought the world was beautiful. It was a beautiful world. And there we go. So how far did we go up on PulseChain? Well, on the weekly, we went all the way. Actually, not this one here. Went all the way from quadruple zero 2200. And we rallied all the way up over those 42 days. We went up 148%, so 2.5x on the old Pulse. And we got the 4 zeros, 5,458. So that's kind of where we got to on the US price. And all was good in the world. Everyone was happy. And you could see the flowers in the fields. You could see the butterflies fluttering around. It was a good time. So there we go. That was 42 days of gloriousness. Unfortunately, then we've gone down. Now, the important part about that, of course, is that during that phase here was the SEC, right? So we had the SEC news. It was essentially the second week here, so right there. And we bet the SEC, right? We bet the SEC, truly bet the SEC. No deal making, no behind the back, backroom deals, but actually defeated in court with a judge that was not necessarily going to be favorable in New York, and we ended up winning decisively and setting some precedent there. So PulseChain and HEX, PulseX and Richard Hart, have got that extra defense that even XRP and that doesn't have. So it's a special moment, and of course PulseChain rallied pretty nicely from there. So it's been kind of cool. We got some nice cool patterns in the chart on the weekly, a big W. But whatever sort of bull flag or whatever we might have had is kind of over there for the time being. And at the moment we've got the price at quadruple 697. So it's typically been down for a number of weeks. So almost not quite dissimilar, but just 1 week shy. But we've basically been down about 33%. But remember that was on the back of that 2.5x, 150% up. So we're down 33%. Which is not too bad in the context of that. The other thing, of course, is that we have a lower high, right? So we had the low deck here in end of March 2025, and we were down at quadruple 1665 for Pulse, and now we've got this high, right? So we got that, and so we've got a higher low, I should say, and we've got a higher high, right? So we've got the high in here as well. So we've got this nice little thing going here, and I guess if we extrapolate that out and push that out right there, we've got a nice little channel forming. And where will we go? Are we going to go all the way down here to 3,000 again? I mean, it's definitely plausible, but we're just going to taper out here. We've been down here with this little dip here at quadruple 344 right now. Now, the other thing, of course, is that we had this long-term resistance on the chart that you can see. There's the weekly candles, remember? They're not daily candles. And we can see that we broke out of there, right? We broke out and we've come back and we've tested what was previously super long-term resistance, right? Super long-term resistance. And let's go back, flashback a little bit time here. This is when the SEC came upon us, right? The SEC came upon us here, and it was a dark day indeed. We had $167 million in volume that week on this particular pair are pretty crazy. So yeah, it's early days, early days. We bet this resistance. We have broken through. We're now testing it. We're kind of riding along the bottom of this support here. So yeah, we are looking fairly good. We tested it this week. So yeah, are we going to bounce from here, or are we going to go all the way back down underneath? I mean, we'd technically be going underneath that long-term resistance. Was long-term resistance, which is now support technically. And so yeah, that would be quite a negative outcome. But we do have a defense line there. Two lines of defense. We've got the first line, this long-term, and then we've got this more short-term support up here. But coming back to 3,000, essentially the mark there, that would be the bearish scenario. RSI at the moment is for the weekly is 48, so we're kind of in the middle. So it could weaken down to that 3,000 mark, but at the moment we're trying to defend this long-term support line. Well, we're hoping it becomes support line. We're testing it now, and then off to the races, right? So we are in a new time though, because we have defeated the SEC, and that is opening up a new era for PulseChain. So that's just the PulseChain sort of narrative. So we have got this this old era of the darkness is gone, and so we are really. Let's make that purple, shall we? Make that purple. So we're really no, not that. I want to do the line. Let's draw that in. So let's let's put that color in there. So we have through the SEC time we are in new territory. And that's good news, right? Good news. We've got only crypto in house yet. Not long now. Things will really start the pump soon. I can feel it says only crypto. I like that attitude. That's true. So we got this on the PulseChain time frame, but we're also looking pretty good still. And as long as we defend, this resistance line here, I think that's particularly strong. Certainly a weaker case if we come back down here, but still we got that second line of defense, and we can still bounce from there. But certainly a stronger story if we hold around this 3,700 mark right now. And particularly 35, let's say 35 to 3,700 there. So 4 zeros, 3,500, let's say on that. So that's kind of where we are. We are free from the SEC, so we really got nothing, no regulatory legal burden over us, so to speak. And we are entering a period where it's typically October, right? So let's have a look at some of that. We'll do a green candle this time, or green box, and we've got October. So let's push that in there. And we might go to the end of September there, and we'll push that in. It was October, not too far. So October, let's do it there. Let's make this green because we can. Well, we try. So green, and so October there. So we're going to get this bounce here and up to the right there. So we put some green arrows. Jump in the chat there. Let me know what you think. But we're going to get something like this. Maybe this weekend, get something like that. I guess we'll keep it in October, right? Keep it in October. We're going to start rolling up there. I don't know. Where are we going to go? Going to go up here at 8,400. Is that too far? Are we going to go to 57? Are we going to do another top test there at 57? Or are we going to go right up here and get up to something like 85? That'd be quite the move, wouldn't it? Quite the move. What about a 7,000? What about 7,000? That seemed doable. Maybe a 7,000. We shall see. But we need some catalysts, right? Need some catalysts. Let's go into the catalyst would be the market, no doubt. And we've got some good stuff. October could be absolutely golden. We are expecting that to be even more bullish, right? Because we are expecting, the Q4 to be really bullish. So that takes us into here. So that could be some pretty awesome stuff here. Also, if we defend this line, we could have some really big movements there. Now, what's the weakness to PulseChain? Let's be frank amongst friends. The frank amongst friends is that we're having problems with the bridge. Let's be frank. Let's be friends. And we also got the sacrifice set, right? It's got the sacrifice set. Now, it has been to our favor. It has been, 840 something days, I think it is. 45 days. I can't remember exactly what I said earlier today. Something like that. And we have got rid of, I guess, some of them. But we had a lot, right? We had a lot. And, some people say certain things about their position and may or may not be true. Going to take a bit of faith in humanity, which in crypto and internet is a pretty dangerous place. So it is what it is. And here we are. So we shall see what happens in this. So we've got mega themes with Ethereum, with the ETH acquisition vehicles. They are the key catalyst, really. and that's on the back of all the mega themes that we talk about all the time: tokenization, payment systems, the stock market coming into crypto, Genius Act and stable coins, the listings of NASDAQ now at the SEC, the SEC strategies, the government strategies coming up. We've got lots of things, the Clarity Act, all these things are playing into pump mentals. Corporates getting in, institutions getting in, sovereign states getting in. This is a process, though, right? It takes time, but it will accelerate when there's FOMO, right? When FOMO, they'll all FOMO into trying to clamor in there. Oh, the prices are going up quite quick. We better get in. And then, of course, they all jump on top of each other. So that's the macro picture. And Tom Lee's leading the way with that. So that's kind of cool. And that also pumps, of course, the PulseChain sacrifice set. It's kind of the play. So that's kind of the pump mentals. And of course, we do see Ethereum getting sucked out of the exchanges in the millions. So we're down to around 17 million or so from 20 million only a couple of months ago. So things are heading into the point where we may get some massive rebound. We shall see how that plays out. Still tens of billions of dollars yet to come in to Ethereum to pump up, to take it off the market. And these are long-term players. They're going to be supply sinking it. It's not going to be retail, cycle pump and dumps for the most part, with a lot of the strategic acquisition firms in particular. So that's kind of where we are right now. We see a lot of big stuff happening with the ETFs. It seems to be the vehicle of choice for a lot of corporates and other people going through BlackRock and others. Of course, they're also selling as well. They're selling dumps as well. So we're always going to get, as they get bigger, take over more of the crypto market and pump the value. They're also going to get more of the same games that the stock market has in crypto. But we just saw that on the Sunday, right? So no surprises there. So that's kind of where we are at the moment with the bigger picture. Shorter picture of a PulseChain. We're looking pretty good with that chart. And so we're just, maybe this is the last little bit of red market here we're going to have. Like I say, if we can hold this first line of defense at 3,500, and then the next line at 3,000. So that would be the negative side of the story. If we hold this upper range, then we got a much more positive story leading in. And of course, that could be pretty cool too. Maybe we'll get to 7,000 during October or Uptober. Really depends on how strong the rest of the market moves there as well. And of course, not having issues with the bridges and capital flows, things like that. Now, we do have obviously some really bullish news lately around Liberty Swap, 40 chains ramping up. Now, they're still ramping up to that. We also got, Hyperlane now, which has got a ramp up too. So it's a ramp up story. But the fact that it started is unbelievable, up to 130 chains, hopefully eventually, as liquidity and chain to chain gets added additionally. So we'll keep a lookout for that. Of course, we've already got Change Now out there. Change Now with all their referral sites as well, along with Ramp Now and potentially BankX, which we don't think we've heard too much news from for some time. But BankX and definitely playing a role there too. We're also seeing some activities on some of the wallets happening as well. There's always a lot of optimism there. So that's kind of where we are right now. Now we've got the big whales, of course, launching in the same time. So the same October, this Uptober. So we're going to scroll that back to October again and scroll that back. We've got all the whales launching. So we've got Rack and Michelle launching CoinWhale. It's going to be multi-chain, not necessarily PulseChain directly, but of course, a lot of the low-hanging fruit for him will be the PulseChain community because they know him and he knows them. Some people like him, some people don't, all that stuff. We try to be a no drama channel, so we try to keep away from that, but that's reality in the market. And but it looks very good. I mean, the stuff that he's put out is very, very good indeed for that. In fact, we might bring up his latest post because I thought it was pretty nice actually. So let's bring that up with the old Rack and Michelle. And so let's have a look. And we're going to go to that. And he put out a very good post earlier. A picture of this image, which I thought was fantastic. Let's actually hold that. Oh, actually, we'll leave that. So we've got the full thing. Yeah, so that is the image that he posted. And it looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Look at that. Really, 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 really nice. Now, remember, this is not really going to be for the crypto bros. I mean, the crypto bros will be in it. But really, it's a corporate thing, right? It's trying to get the capital type investment, because I think his view is, he's got some connections, I believe, into the White House, possibly even to Donald Trump Jr. He's posted little teasers about that, but also around, targeting getting a listing on the NASDAQ, which would be brilliant for him, but also brilliant for, PulseChain as being one of the chains that are on it. And of course, having probably a lot of, shared customers, or shared investors, let's say. So it could be pretty nice. But he's doing a really quality job with the branding. Really is targeting the sort of blue chip protocol. It's going to have a whole ton of DeFi in it, basically a DeFi suite of products, and including a stable coin, which I think is going to be called Rackham Dollar or something like that. But it could be pretty exciting, and we're looking forward to that. So I think that looks pretty good, and so that could really play a key role in there. We've also got Firewall, right? We talked about that earlier today in the gaming coverage, and of course that is going to be launching in October too. Now I thought it was going to be September. We both thought, Coinwell and X game were both going to launch in September. That's now been pushed to October. So I mean, it is what it is. But they do look very close. It's not one of these ones that too far away, but maybe a couple of weeks for X game. Because Randy said something about testnet there, final testnet. Also, Coinwell, they're moving to the fourth quarter, and I'm just presuming it's going to be October. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, how close to this. But that's pretty exciting. So it could be pretty awesome in October, and we now know that on-chain bet is very unlikely to be launching, so we're not counting that in. Just the whale projects at the moment for October. So that could be pretty exciting, and that would certainly help us move up here, right? A lot of new capital flow potentially, and excitement about those big protocols. So, and of course, particularly both of them in their own respective. I think the X game could be a killer app for hitting the retail book across multiple chains, and the Coinwell for targeting higher VIP investors and potentially even institutions, depending on his network, right, that he plays out. So those are the two things that could be pretty good there. And of course, capital flow is what we want, right? Capital attracting new capital is the key to pushing the prices up, right? So that is some of the backdrop there at the moment for the old Pulse. Now, I was going to get into, should we go do the presentation before we get into PulseX? Let's do that, and we'll come back to the PulseX charts. How about that? So we'll bring that up, and let's click through one of these. This is a revision, where Pulse is at. So PulseX there, let's see, you can ignore the title because it was the title I had before. We're doing fundamental predictions. So we've got PulseChain developers, obviously, are doing a lot of stuff. They can create a certain amount of value, and we are seeing a gaming boom right now, decentralized casino boom. So that's pretty exciting on PulseChain. Developers really can do that. Before this phase of gaming come out, we were having the farming renaissance, right? We had like 6 good farms launch after PulseX, and 9inch had sort of faded with the farming. We then had a whole ton of small to medium farms pop up, but with really good innovations. I mean, really good innovations. So we've had that, Kairos from Emmett has been a standout. We've had Psycho from Nexian just launched the Go product today, which is fantastic with 10x leverage. So we now have 2 platforms with leverage platforms, not just the famous GMX fork, right? We now have 2, and of course the cool thing about Glow is it's going to be across multiple products. You can pretty much anything on PulseChain you could set up on there, which is pretty exciting. So it's pretty exciting for Nexian. So big shout out to Psycho there that launched today. I want to do more coverage on that. I haven't really covered it today, but maybe we'll do it tomorrow on the Glow product. So that's going to be a real game changer, particularly for the small, medium, even to large protocols, but pretty much all protocols as opposed to the limited amount that's on the GMX fork for Famous. So we'll get into that too. So developers are making a big role there with the farms, big role with the gaming, so in decentralized casinos. So we are in a sort of boom right now. We haven't got too much happening with the NFTs. I mean, let's be frank. I mean, there have been a successful sellout recently of the 9mm NFTs, but NFTs are still something I think that's going to be a bit later. That we also need a lot better developers with a lot better ethics. We, in the early boom of NFTs, as you guys know, I was really the only one covering them. We had some unethical players, unfortunately, and you always get some of those, right? So you try to judge who's who, but don't catch them all, do you? Don't catch them all. But I think we might very well see, a renaissance in the NFTs, the 721 contracts, the M55 contracts on PulseChain. and of course the 404s, right, which we saw with Dipcatcher doing some really good stuff there. In fact, that was a brilliant job, really. I mean, I know the price is not reflective, but PulseChain is down generally. But those 404s have been pretty cool. We saw 404 Mon as well in the 404 contract space, which is pretty cool too. So we have got developers doing a lot of cool things, and we've got the big heavyweights launching with the two big whales, and they can throw marketing money in it, they can throw capital at it, and so we already saw with with Coinwell, Rack Michelle put up maybe half to $1 million, and with the possibility of going up to 10 million. I guess depending on where he thinks his investing network is coming in, that would probably be the biggest call there. So that's kind of where we are right now on PulseChain developers, but they're still pushing ahead. We saw some, obviously new games coming. We talked about that in the previous live stream. I won't go through all those, but they're there as well. Obviously, I didn't mention all the farms that are out as well, but there's a lot of farms there, along with Function Island and others. So not bad. Tri-stables, of course, Richard Hart's already made some moves this year. So, a lot of people are like, Richard, Richard can't just do it all by himself. You got those people in that camp. You got people in the thing as well. PulseChain won't do anything unless Richard does something. So, maybe it's a bit of both there. And that's kind of where I fall, right? It's a bit of both. So Tri-stables, Richard's already set this up with Tri-stables on PulseX. And I think it was pretty successful. But now we've seen teams come in as well. So that's why I said, Richard can do certain things. But also we've seen a new balancer fork launch, only 2 days ago, I think it was, from Coast, called Tide. And that's now got another balancer fork. Now, balancer's more efficient for stablecoins. It's got a better algorithm that gives you a better swap without too much slippage, as opposed to like a PulseX or Uniswap fork, right? A V2 fork, which is inefficient for stablecoins in particular, right? So that's been pretty exciting. And of course, I know that they petition people that are in liquid loans right now, which is a liquidity fork, obviously the biggest one on PulseChain, one of the top 10. I think I'm not quite sure where it's exactly ranked, maybe top 5 out of all liquidity forks. There's about 35, 40 liquidity forks in the world. And of course, PulseChain has 4 of the top 10, which is pretty successful for PulseChain. So we have our successes, even with prices down. And so Tri-stable has been really important, and that means that people with a lot of stable coins just want to earn a nice conservative yield, can come in and earn a nice return. Now, I think liquid loans returns around about 11%, if I remember rightly last time, and I think even the Tide project that's coming on is earning like 22% right now. So people can potentially swap from liquid loans into the new balancer fork at Tide and earn a better yield. So it's always possible. So we've got that out as well, and of course the old famous team. They've got their balancer fork as well out, right? Which I think is PHEX. I think it's PHEX the name. So that's out there. Still got maybe 6.5 million last time I checked, but you can go check that out as well. So Tri-stables, pretty cool, from Richard Hart through to the famous team, through to Coast, playing a role in Tri-stables there, and of course some of the farms as well playing some degree of role there in stablecoins. But particularly, we saw a pretty cool move with Richard Hart, and of course just only a day or two ago, the Tide project from Coast, which is fantastic. Coast, of course, our main fiat on ramp to PulseChain Direct, which is pretty useful when you have problems with the bridge. So there we go. Now that's Tri-stables incentive inflation cut. That was pretty big. I've seen people with different numbers around the inflation rate cut, but nevertheless, and basically the incentive token has been cut down to about 2,600 a year, which is pretty small on 55 million base supply. We know that admission recently from Firewell that he was sitting at number 3 on the INC table. And that had been his most profitable play. In fact, he had been involved with many other projects that hadn't been that profitable. Of course, PulseChain being down, but he had made a great amount of money with the INC token, which is kind of cool. So that's pretty interesting. Richard's already cut that. So Richard's made moves on Tri-stables, made moves on cutting the inflation for INC. So these are all pre-moves, right? And so these are sort of prelude to something that's coming down further in the old ramp up. Now that ramp up might be 12 months later. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it could be this quarter in Q4. Could be a good play, but it could be much further down the line. We'll see how Richard plays this from his perspective. But he also wants, obviously, the rest of the people on PulseChain to do things. And the developers are, as I just mentioned earlier, doing farms, doing utilities, doing gaming, doing decentralized casinos, a full DeFi range project ecosystems, bridges, all that sort of stuff. We've been seeing a lot of that. So, the PulseChain is doing a lot of stuff. The developers are doing a lot of stuff, and people are participating in those. So it's kind of cool from that point of view. The next one, of course, is that's PulseX Farms. Obviously, that's thinned out with the LP. So, obviously that means that prices can move up faster and down faster, which is all part of Hart's law and all the rest of it. So Richard Hart really has moved for that as well, and of course making sure that there's not too much reward and inflation in too many hands, right? And so he's tried to dampen that down as well. But we get on the up market and the down market. Next one, of course, is pump tires. Richard Hart, normally not into meme coins, as we know, but Richard Hart 2.0 is. And of course, there were issues around safety on the PulseChain, particularly around the PDI maker and stuff and extractions that were happening with certain protocols. So that becomes an existential issue for PulseChain. And of course, along came pump tires, which is arguably safer. And if there are a few issues from time to time where sometimes even though tokens bond over on pump tires, they don't actually launch properly, but normally the funds are stuck in the contract, and it's just a matter of being able to have the technical expertise to get them out if that does happen on those rare occasions. But pump tires, of course, been super popular, and we've got dozens of them out there that have all got little communities. Some bigger than others, and how many of them will survive? Well, the market will decide, but probably just a fraction will do particularly well, and the rest of them not so much. So there we go. That's pump tires, and of course, it is accumulating a lot of tokens for the Genus wallet in there. So and it creates a lot of profitability, right? So we know those platforms are particularly profitable, and lots of people like token launches, right? So they're making a lot of money, including on other chains as well. So Richard Hart there enjoying the old pump tire income there. Now that can all be recycled back into PulseChain. So all these things matter. Just like PulseX, if Richard Hart's got positions in all those, then all that can be cycled back in if so choosing. Optionality, let's say optionality. Now the HEX Genesis wallet stakes T-shares payout. Now we also saw Richard Hart, with the OA wallet. It has always been the regulator. There was no surprises with the moves there. It was just a matter of when and where and how, in terms of the ladder. And we saw the OA, what am I trying to say? OA wallets there. I was trying to say AO, but OA wallets there, staking on both Ethereum and a PulseChain, both chains. And now we're down to a small fraction, normally around about 665 billion tokens of HEX, suddenly going down to like 48, 45 on either the chain. So we've seen some big moves there, and the T-share payout cut from 7.5 HEX down to 1.5 HEX per T-share, which means that you're cutting down those rewards for a lot of people. Now, that is a controversial move, like even asking me now. Obviously, you guys know I've been covering it for years and years, but it is controversial, those sort of things. There's no doubt about that. You are regulating the payout. The upside, so that's the downside. The upside is that you are setting it up for potentially a big run in the price, and that is the offset, right? So you might lose on the volume dramatically, but you win on the upside potentially. So that is kind of the play there with the upside. So you get the US dollar payout. So that's kind of the incentive there, as I see it. So that is HEX, and of course we know Crispy Man does some pretty cool deep dives on his show into the HEX details there. So that is kind of cool. I think you need maybe just don't think how you need. If you need to make a decent little income these days, I think you need a couple 100 million HEX, and there's not. I don't know how many people are walking around with that these days. But we also saw that BankX is almost out as well. Last time I saw, had about 23 million HEX there on EHEX, and so that's basically almost out as well. So Gomberger is the day of the BankX there as well. And so yeah, that's the play. So that's setting us up as well for potential price pump as well. So you can see Richard Hart's already, he has been making a lot of moves. And so we're going back to tri-stables there, cutting incentive token, the PulseX farms thinning out, Hart's Law, pump tires there, earning income, a safer route for launching some tokens. How many of them survive long term is a question you can answer, but I suggest to you only a fraction. And of course, only a few of those with quite active communities. When you ever have a token and you've got a community, you are running a little business. I mean, let's be frank, you are a little business, and of course, that's one of the reasons why the Kryptonite Show started up professional promotions on PulseChain, is to be an ethical provider. Some people could see that actions follow words, and to actually be seen. You can have a project team, but if no one's seeing your project, you have a project with the best economics, no one's seeing it, then you got no chances, and you're up against another dozens, if not hundreds, of other tokens and projects. So it was a needed thing, and that's why we've gone into doing promotions, and it's been going pretty well, and I think people have been pretty happy about that. So the other thing, of course, not with just promotions, but we're doing publications too, like the Monster Thread, right, every week, which has been really, really good. So HEX there, HEX wallet there. Richard Hart's been making a lot of moves, and it's always good to remind ourselves of the moves that he's made. And so that's what we're doing here. Fetch Oracle, of course, launched as well. We needed an Oracle on PulseChain. It was a big problem with PDI Maker, of course, coming over to getting forked over and not having an Oracle set up, right, because it's broken when it got here. And of course, that's been a lot of issues. Fetch Oracle, of course, is a fork of Teller. But it lacks some of the things that we need on PulseChain, and that's frustrated some of the developers, particularly like Jacob at with PUSD ALGO and PulsePot and things like that, where they want a good Oracle. But we are waiting for the Signum Oracle, which is apparently going to have all the bells and whistles, but that is also delayed also. So we do get a lot of delays, and that can be frustrating, especially for us users that are waiting to use the protocol, at least talk about it. And so we are waiting for Signum Oracle. That is subject to Tetra launching, of course, which is revolutionary as well on PulseChain. We're still waiting for that. It's probably maybe getting close. We'll see. Certainly at the last end, doing all the UI adjustments. Apparently, it's quite a complex product, so I guess that's what's holding it up. So yeah, SEC case history, as we mentioned earlier, obviously 7th of July, we're free indeed. PDI Maker closed, or at least mostly closed, depending on who you're asking it. Is mostly closed, and yeah, let's see where that goes. But that was getting extracted by by Mr. Dong. Was it Mr. Dong? So yeah, good content for Somi though. Good content for Somi. Richard Hart video, of course, came out earlier in the year, just showing that Richard is around. He does care, and he's said there could be a God mode candle any time, but not necessarily to rely on it. Obviously, keep building and the rest of it. And the other thing, of course, is don't be the sell pressure. You are the sell pressure. Don't be the sell pressure. That was the other thing. Now, PulseChain's, we've got a lot of big players doing fancy tricks on PulseChain. We've got bots, obviously doing a lot of trading and scalping of PulseChain. We've had a few people being able to exploit like PDI Maker and things like that. So, there's the retail book only has so much control over the chain. Let's be fair. And so, if you do get, players like that in the game, it's not just the retail book. All right, you got the big whale players as well. Some of them are good, some of them not so good, and you get people launching projects that are multiple projects and operating certain things as well. But you're going to get a bit of a mixed bag, and you can't stop that. We're in DeFi, we're on the blockchain. It is the way it is. Now, obviously, see, we've talked about Sunny. We need institutional investment. We're going to get the huge money. Well, obviously, outside the PulseChain sacrifice, right, which has got all that ETH in it, or Sun Minimal, and of course, to some extent, the Love.io are kind of institutional. But Sun Minimal is the big player, and we're going to try and do a bigger update on Sun Minimal soon to capture, all the things that they're doing. And of course, Sun Minimal corporates can, delay launches just like project teams. They can also completely switch their strategic direction in a heartbeat, especially when they're still relatively young. But will Sun Minimal's vision to be another Bitcoin valuation by 2030? We shall see. Certainly, they're probably holding at least $10 million plus now in the Binance treasury by my count, and they're not using that at this stage. And of course, we're waiting for some launches around Floyn and others. So we'll keep a tab on some of those too. We've got Frank White in the house there. Bang, bang, Pulse Gang. Good to see you, Frank White. Now, speaking of PulseChain, Frank White, of course, has got the big PulseChain ecosystem map on PLS Start. So I hope you guys have saved that to your favorites and using that. That'd be really cool. We got Cult DeFi, of course, launched his own project recently. Talking about project developers at the top there, number one. Just launched his own one there, of course. Was it Pulse Beat Miner? Was it 369? Yeah, so I think that's gaining traction, isn't it, Cult DeFi? I think it's gaining traction. Let us know in the chat there how you're feeling about that so far. Obviously, he's going to say it's good because he's the founder, but how's it progressing in objective numbers? Let me say. All right, so that's kind of cool. Let's go to number 12. Obviously, we've talked about the bridges. We've had a really lucky run of bridges, and these are all catalysts to opening up all the highways to PulseChain, let's say, and not only that, but opening it up to all the users on other chains, opening it up to all the liquidity on other chains. So if we got we've got HEX Scout working with Hyperlane, getting up to 130 chains. That's all the liquidity opening up. All the people can come. And if we do get green candles as we're expecting in the future on PulseChain, especially from a low base, I think on a low base on PulseChain, then we'll get a lot of people flocking over very quickly, and it's going to be easy to do so, right? You want it easy to come to PulseChain. That's going to be pretty awesome there. And of course, Liberty Swap there also up to 40 chains and doing a pretty good job there. You do have to be careful on some of the approvals. I must note, you need to be careful on any approvals. Always make sure you have the limits. Always make sure you're doing the right tokens, and you don't get any intercept contracts, things like that. So just be careful out there. And obviously don't Google around too much with sites, because there's a lot of scam sites. We're seeing that for bridges, and other things like that. So do be careful. And we've got on-ramp now, and one thing we've seen all these bridges too, they've lifted the liquidity. So they've gone start off with like 2,500, they've gone to 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. That gets mostly probably 99% of the retail book doing $99,000 individual transactions, and then we've gone now up to 25,000. So we're well and truly heading up towards the the VIP investors as well. So that's pretty cool. And so things are ramping up with the low limit and liquidities, and it's been a pretty good service. But you obviously always keep your safety in mind. Always use DGN wallets and all the rest of it. Don't ever use your if you got your main bags and certain wallets, just keep them locked down. Don't interact with smart contracts, no matter what it is. With those, just a good security practice, right? Cultivo says on 1 week, 100 million pulse in the TVL. It's a solid start. Well done, Cultivo. 100 million pulse in there. That's fantastic. And nice, says Frank White 369. Yeah. Great stream, says Frank White. I appreciate that. Big shout out. All right, so that is what we've seen recent moves. So just a reminder of some of the plays we've already seen Richard make this year. From the video at the start of the year. And he gave us a lot of tidbits in there. The tri-stables, the incentive cut, PulseX farms thinning out pump tires, the OA sacrifice, the T-share cut. These are all presets up, to manage inflation, to set the chain up for a low base into a big move. It's pretty cool. And we've also seen, the people in the Pulse chain make stuff. So, some people say, don't rely on Richard. Well, don't just rely on the retail book too. And that's the one where people can argue, right? And so forth. So, it is what it is. Now, some people say, well, it was a sacrifice for the sacrifice. People know that, and they went in and therefore it's Richard's money. But Richard Hart himself was the one that registered PulseChain SAC in the Strategic ETH Reserve, right? So it wasn't the retail book that gave him the sacrifice set that gave him the money. It was Richard Hart himself. So there is a balance to be made here, right? There's a balance to be made here, and that's the position that we held. And Richard Hart is the one that set the standard on that. So the other positive thing, of course, is Richard wants people to be positive. And of course, as you guys know on this channel, I like people to be positive and constructive as well. That's why we're a no drama channel. At least we do our best to not be. And of course, also a PG channel, because you need some PG channels amongst the blockchain influencers. There we go. So that is kind of the cool stuff that we've been seeing. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Now moving forward, of course, future moves. Whale, Rackham, and Firewhale. That's about to kick in October. Looks good. X game, and could be a killer app. 30% referral bonus, solid X staking, credit cards, banking accounts. Don't know when those are coming, but it's going to be pretty amazing. The founder of Base Chain apparently is going to be promoting it. I mean, it's huge, guys. So lots of cool stuff. Big marketing budget potentially. Of course, Rackham there potentially targeting high investor customers in the United States. Investors bringing new capital multi-chain. Possibly a NASDAQ listing, possibly a connection to the White House and maybe the crypto strategy, who knows? If he's definitely got connections into World Liberty and the USDX, USD1 and all that sort of stuff, and that could be massive if he can get any of that getting into Cornwell. Wow, that'd be quite cool. So we'll see what Rackham can come up with. Certainly got a lot of options, and I think he's definitely got some good connections, and I think he generally means well. So we're going to have to check that out and to keep track of that. His wife, of course, becoming CEO recently, so that was pretty cool. So we'll find out how all that plays out. Of course, Banksa, we're still waiting a bit on that. I haven't really heard too much news on that. We have 2 more other out-rants. Well, I think we've had one of those already, right? We've had, I think we've had the one of those that we were initially indicated from HEX Scout, which is Hyperlane. I'm not sure if that was the one at the end of the year. So I think we may have had all those. So that's pretty cool. It's gone pretty well. Signum Oracle, so we're waiting for that, right? We now have full range Oracle. As I understand, that will be that solution, but it's waiting for Tetra. And I know that's frustrating a few protocol developers like Jacob, who wants to launch PUSD ALGO, although we understand there's certain things are going on in the background, but we'll see when it all happens. So fingers crossed on there. We can only hope. Number 4, PulseChain developers boom. we've seen it. We've just started to see it, right? With Scott, obviously, we had the farming boom, and I think that's going to continue. We're expecting a couple more new farms coming through, right? Sometimes they're farms within the protocol themselves, like Functional Island, who launched sort of sub farms inside their protocol. Other times we see, 10x leverage protocols like Glow coming from Nexium, just launched today, which we're going to probably hopefully talk about tomorrow. We've got obviously all the farms. We've got more farms coming. I think PulseChain, can't remember the exact site. PulseChain's got a new farm. Try to pull that up. So we do have a few more farms with innovations. It's no good just having a farm. You've got to have something innovative about it generally. And so that's exciting. And we've probably got a good half a dozen, farms that are delivering good value to people. We've got GameFi, of course. We've got a GameFi boom just announced. And so we've been covering that pretty hardcore this week. And so, we've got I covered 6 projects this morning. So that's pretty exciting for that. Maybe 7. Was it 7? Maybe even 7. So GameFi / casinos. So that's kind of cool. NFTs, question mark. We'll see that probably later on in the process. Once PulseChain gets a bit more valuable, we might see an NFT boom there. Although we have seen some good 404 contracts, like I said earlier. So it's pretty cool. And Killer Dat, right? Killer Dat. Now, obviously, we've got Pulse Land just being teased at the moment. That could be a Killer Dat 3D world with land sales and games like Squid Games and things like that. Avatars, probably get marriages and some babies. Who knows, right? But that could be a killer app. Obviously, X Game could be a killer app with the multi-chain casino. So we've got lots of those killer apps. We're definitely chasing some of those. That's when you bring a lot of new people and a lot of new capital. So and you have a really cool time. You have a cool time. So that's definitely on the play there. Single side staking. Obviously, PulseX not really been utilized. The DAO is still controlled by the master chef. So that hasn't been allocated over to Incentive Token or PulseX. So still question mark there. Now, Magic Cartwright, of course, that's what a lot of people are holding on to, the Rich Hart and, of course, the PulseChain SAC. Obviously, it's PulseChain SAC plus other, and that could be all sorts of things like the old AA Lobby ETH floating around there somewhere, and the rest of it. So, and of course, the other thing is the trigger. Richard Hart knows that the ETH price is going to be going up big time. So, it's like, how will he use that? Will he use it as an asset base? Will he shave a little bit off? Will he just let it sit there year after year and just get fatter and bigger? Or we just actually put it to work a little bit in some form. So we'll see what Richard Hart does in that space. But that is kind of the play. And remember, Richard Hart was the one that put it as a PulseChain SAC there. So on that list. So, this is what it is. Richard Hart streams, of course. We're going to get some Richard Hart streams. Of course, this is a mega event, really, I think we could all sense that it's like pent up demand. And of course, tens of thousands of people watch Richard Hart. And, people love hearing him talk for, 3 to 7 hours, 8 hours. But it's pretty long. And so, that'd be pretty cool. Richard, of course, has been looking after his health and looking really good in his video earlier in the year. And so, it could be pretty mega there. Now, will he stream as much as he used to? Probably not, as my view. Life changes. You get a bit older. You do different things. But we may see him do maybe some semi-regular streams. That'd be pretty exciting. And we all know the chart would just pump through the moon, right, with the Richard Hart stream, right? Now, we just had the interest rate cuts, right? And we know Richard Hart loves interest rate cuts, so he knows that's a big part of the cycle. And we know we're now on a downward path, despite what some of the presidents say. We're expecting, at least the bond market, expecting 3 rate cuts this year. We've had 1, and it's really begun. A lot more pressure coming in as well as Powell, term comes to an end. Trump is moving to, get the rates lower, put his own people in. And of course, we could see some big changes into new year. We are expecting another 3 changes, decreases in the rates next year. So that's 6 rate decreases. That would get us down to about 3% on the federal funds rate, and the inflation's about 2.9. So we'll see how the data comes in over the next sort of 3 to 6 months. But it's certainly looking good for the rate cycle. And of course, rate cycle means risk on, because you're not making as much on low interest rates, right, in the bank and conservative corporate investments. So you actually go to stock market and crypto, and you go and seek bigger returns. So it's kind of the general theme there. Low interest rates means that people can borrow more too, and therefore borrow and invest. They can borrow in their houses and invest more into crypto. We also got the tariffs out there, right? So we might get another tariff check. I get a tariff check out there for the good old Americans. They'll love that. And we saw that with the COVID checks, remember? And that would help with the market. So there's lots of things that could come that way into the market there. So pretty exciting. On top of all the big themes around the Genius Act and the Clarity Act and the Bitcoin strategy and all sorts of stuff. We saw Michael Saylor at the White House today, all those bullish things. So, we've got the golden run, guys. And we're having a little dip right now, a little fake out. And of course, if you look at past charts, we get the same sort of form at the moment that we've had in the past, and then it's game on. But and imagine Richard's looking at all this stuff. He's looking at the whole map, and he's going to play his chess pieces very well. So we could see a stream at some stage. Now I'm not too sure that the red notice and all that is going to be a bit of any issue for him to actually stream. He's already done a video, so I don't really see that being an issue. So yeah, let's see where it goes. But that would be mega huge. No one in crypto, no influencer in crypto has a good engagement as Richard Hart, hands down. It doesn't matter whether they got 3 million followers like Lark, or anything like that, 2 million followers and whatever. It's his engagements head and shoulders above everybody. Pretty crazy numbers, really, and I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger, especially after this pent up expectations. The other one, of course, is Richard Hart Wallet. May see that Richard Hart teased that right early in the year, so that could happen. Lots of third-party applications that Richard could bring to bear on PulseChain, and we may see, I don't know, we see a sacrifice on sacrifice. Do we see some other form of doing that? Do we see the OA wallets, the Pulse and the PulseX, doing a lot of magic? There's lots of different things, chess pieces that Richard Hart can move. So we're going to keep a lookout on all that too. And it also does protect the chain to some degree as well, having all those big bags. So there we go from large whales. Richard Hart stablecoin, of course. In the past, Richard Hart's always said, I prefer a fiat back one. Obviously, we've got Coast that already does that. But you never know. Richard Hart might do something in that space. Obviously, the P guys in the PDI movement think it's PDI. Even though Richard sort of said, no, it's not PDI, guys. But they hope. Now, obviously, that is the place there. We've got Richard Hart DeFi and PulseX. Could, like I say, do all sorts of innovative things on PulseChain, in particular, maybe related to the PulseChain SAC. Maybe he's coming up. He's got a lot of great ideas and other people don't normally think of. And we'll see whether over all these years he's had enough time to think of some master plans around that. It could be pretty cool with the PulseChain SAC. And, of course, imagine if he does a multiplier on that, just like we see with the MNAV, with the ETH strategic reserves. Maybe he could do something in that space too. Be pretty awesome and not even have to move anything. Be pretty neat. So community growth, of course, boom, and that's hard work, right? Especially when the market's down, green candles really move. But we've had developers; they're building out stuff. We've got the big whales moving this in October potentially, especially with Solid with X Game, and of course that could bring in a lot of new people because a lot of these protocols are doing multi-chain, and that potentially brings in a lot of new people, and they can come into PulseChain easier now because we do have all these new on ramps, right? All these chains. Like Liberty Swap and Hyperlane, things like that. So it's easy to onboard people. Give them enough reason to come. That's kind of cool. The other thing, of course, is not just the people, but their capital flow on other chains. If you can siphon off profits from other chains with the capital flow, that's really, really cool. We see that at the moment. Jack Levin, the famous vampire on X1, is looking to do exactly the same, right, over on Solana. So he's looking to vampire the Solana chain now through launching XDEX, which they bought out and. They made Jason over there, who's the dev for XDEX, do that. And, of course, they're going to have their own token launcher as well. There's lots of money to be made. And they're going to siphon that off and the users into X1. That's going to play there. Poor Zen holders, though, that is going to be well down the track because they're going to build value on X1 there. And, therefore, the Zen is it's way down the track before they get a chance to burn the Zen and burn parties and get any of the value that's on X1 chain by then. So it's the winners and losers there. But on PulseChain, community growth there, very important. And that's everybody, right? That's all the influencers, it's all the community people, the network effect, all the developers making good reasons for people to come. And if we get a couple of killer apps, that is going to be really big deal there in the community growth. Obviously, if Richard Hart does certain things, it's also going to bring a lot of attention. Obviously, if he does a live stream, if he does things around green candles, God mode pumps, all that sort of stuff. Now, there's not just Richard Hart out there, of course. There are whales on the chain that potentially could do stuff. There's obviously HEX Gold Whale. And, of course, as I said earlier, Richard Hart's got all the OA wallets and all the rest of it, potentially the old AA Lobby ETH. And, of course, he's an OG Bitcoin ETH OG. And he could do a few mechanisms there, but I doubt that we'll see much of that. And of course, they keep it private, don't they? Don't want to be tracked. So not expecting too much from that particular sources. All right, so that is kind of cool there. Institutional, of course, that is the holy grail. And at the moment, we've got Sun Minimal that's probably got the best avenue for institutional. And of course, the other one there is maybe the RG3 guys may have a little angle in there potentially. Maybe the HEX Investment Trust once again gets relived now that the SEC's been defeated. So there's a couple avenues there. And of course, also Rack and Rochelle makes sense. So we've got probably 3 or 4 obvious institutional plays that potentially could connect into PulseChain. Once again, it's really a matter of them actually taking that. At the moment, I would give a high priority possibly to the Sun Minimal with US institutional investors, and of course with Rack and Rochelle with US. So we technically do have 2 really good options, maybe 3. With institutional into Europe and into the United States, which would be fantastic if those players do that. So wish them well, and that could potentially bring a lot of capital into PulseChain, in addition to, or at least before anything may happen with the Magic Carp ride, should that. So how Rich Hart may play any of that. So that's kind of the cool stuff happening there. And of course, we're on the low base right now, right? We're on a low base, but we have got good structure in the Pulse chart. And so things could turn around either here at 3,500 or down at 3,000, and of course up and away on October. So good times could be coming pretty soon, and we get some more of these nice big 2.5x's here that we enjoyed between July and mid-August. There was a nice little run there for the old chain. We've got this nice W pattern as well. So fingers crossed, everything's not looking too bad. I mean, it's down this weekend, but it's not the end of the world. I think we're looking pretty good for the future there. So that brings us into PulseX, of course. PulseX at the moment, quadruple 2400. This has kind of been the weaker one, hasn't it, in many ways? We've got the RSI there on the weekly down at 43. And here we are at quadruple 2400 right now. But I just want to look at the ratio to pulse, which has kind of been the most dramatic thing. And at the moment, we had this beautiful long-term trend, right? This beautiful long-term trend, which we had been holding pretty well for a long time. And we've essentially been holding it like that all the way from January 24 all the way up to arguably June this year, and we've broken down through that, right? So now we're at 0.65. So there's 2 competing narratives around that. One is that if someone came in and bought all the pulse up, then there was not going to be a lot of pulse, and so therefore the ratio would be pretty weak versus PulseX. Well, at least PulseX wouldn't get much pulse. The alternative, of course, is you don't get a lot of that. There's a lot of free-floating pulse around, and all the second layer protocols snap up the PulseX. Like we've had liquidity forks and other things like that. They eat up all of the PulseX. So that's the complaint. Of course, PulseX itself not operating like that. So we'll keep a lookout for that competing narrative. I still feel in the second camp that PulseX narrative, there'll be free-floating pulse. Although maybe Voucher's going to take all that pulse. Right? They've gone from 4,000 to 4,500 validators in like a week or something. So who knows? Maybe they're going to soap up all that. I guess there's only so much that can go. But it's pretty crazy. So we got that happening right now, and of course, if you're in the camp, which could very well play out, that all the pulse gets sucked out of existence through protocols. Maybe some Richard Hart does something. There's lots of opportunities there. Then the pulse becomes extremely valuable, right? Which everything else does because pulse is the ocean, right? And everything else is a boat on that ocean. So if the boat, let's say, following that analogy to the upside, the ocean starts rising, then everything else will rise too. And therefore, the ratios does matter a lot there. So, you're going to be better off in PulseX. Well, so far, at least up to June this year, you're better off in PulseX. You're holding, and in fact, way back here in February, got up to over 1-to-1, which is pretty awesome there. So we'll see how that battles out at the moment, which is pretty cool. I think I want to make one more comment about Pulse before we moved on. I just want a quick look at the daily chart. We can see the daily chart right now. We are pretty low on the RSI, 34. We're not completely oversold, but we are definitely pretty low. So maybe very well bounce from here at this defense line for this long-term support level. Was previously resistance in that long term, but is now becoming potentially support. Looking, good chance of it, more probable than not, based on the RSI. And look, we were pretty much underneath that strong resistance for 511 days. Can it be 511 days we're under that long-term resistance, and of course people could feel it. You were going to feel it there. But hey, look, you were better off. You were better off even in Pulse back in December 24, as well as March 24, than you were today. So that's what it is. But yeah, feeling pretty good about October moving forward there at the moment. All right, let's jump over to incentive token, and we can see that we're at $1.41 right now on INC. What's the use cases for INC? Well, obviously we've got Ink Printer out there, the liquidity fork from Fast Abdul, that's sitting out there. A couple other protocols out there using INC, but at the moment, $1.41. There's a lot of protocols using INC, but $1.41 right there right now, and we'll see what happens with this. But only 55 million supply. There's big whales, of course. We mentioned Firewhale earlier. But we'll see. Will Master Chef contract be handed over? Will INC token be the token? We'll see. All that sort of stuff coming up. Let's jump over to the ratio to Pulse. At the moment on the INC is sitting at 38,600. So we're actually seeing a jump in the ratio. So INC worth a lot more than it was only a week ago. It was 32,600, now 38,600. So we have had appreciation on that. The Pulse price is really what's dragged that down. But we're getting a bit of a move here. Maybe it's a good opportunity off the bottom. Maybe it's a good opportunity there. So look at the RSI on the weekly, 43. Let's go to the daily as well. Daily right now bouncing off 33 up at 42. So we might have a nice little run here on the INC. May very well be too oversold, and so that could be a good call right now. On the daily, I just am going to quickly go to the US dollar on the PulseX. Didn't want to jump around too much. We're also bouncing. Could get a bounce here at 32. We don't necessarily have to go to 30 and oversold. We've had good support around this range on the RSI. So we've got higher lows, remember. We could have a good time here, as we say. So maybe that is the bottom in here. Certainly Pulse holding 35 is a pretty important mark, as we can all see there for the rest of the charts as well. And of course, if Pulse recovers, then these are all going to hyper recover, right, in the US dollar terms. And we'll see how much diamond hands we've got after that. Reader, I should say, you are the sellers, you are the sellers. All right, so we're up to HEX right now. HEX, of course, on the hourly. Let's go to the weekly here. Mustn't have set this up. Now, how am I doing for time? 1 hour, so I'm way longer than I thought it was going to be. But we got HEX right now. And it's on PulseChain, of course. We're at 81 hundredth of a penny. We had quite a wick today. Look at that. We were all down at 74, 73 for the week. So we're up from the bottom, but it's still a lot weaker. Now, as you guys know, I think once we get up here on PulseChain, just past 3,200, like 3.2 cents, it's gone. I think the PulseChain's gone. We've had so much pent up demand. We don't have the SEC anymore. If we ever get back up to here, which I know we're going to, then it's game on from there. And people will wish, oh man, I could have got less than a cent, but they don't. It's time value of money, of course, but it's once it gets there, I think it could do some magical things in the numbers, right? Especially with the OA staking and all these new protocols eating up supply and things like that. So we got 47 on the RSI on the weekly. Moving to the daily. Let's go to the Pulse actually before we go to the daily one there. But Pulse at the moment, the ratio there, 221 Pulse per HEX, and it's looking not too bad actually, is it? Not too bad in the scheme of things. So HEX on Pulse looking pretty good relative to Pulse, I think, in this range. Now, obviously a pretty wide range, but over the weekly time frame, but not bad, not bad. All right, let's jump over to the daily and have a quick look at that. At the moment, we're down around 37. So, yeah, we can still go down the leg, and that would mean that Pulse is probably going to go down to 3,000 if we did that. But at the moment, we're holding pretty well at 38. So, got to feel pretty more probable than not we'll hold that support there. But PulseChain's done that before. But I'm going to say more probable than not. We're at the moment we hold 35 on Pulse. Not a given though, so do your own due diligence, all that good stuff. We have seen that being defeated before, but the RSI is giving us some friendly support in that direction. All right, so that's PHEX, EHEX, of course, sitting at quarter of a penny. This has been the star lately, right? It's been the star, and everyone's enjoyed it. It's been pretty cool. We got HEX at a quarter of a penny. And we had a bit of a player come in, didn't they? Tried to pump it again and do a dump, but he got dumped on himself. So we had that happen. The RSI, of course, here at just 51. So we're in the middle, as it were. but we had a nice little pump back here 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and we're actually holding up pretty well on that at quarter of a penny. People not wanting to sell. People know that BankX, of course, is almost out. So I know the last time I checked was maybe 2 days ago, was it 23 million? So assuming that is still the same, they're pretty much out, right? So not bad. They had, 800 million coins from the HEX guy. Well, accidentally, I would say. A bad accent. Bad night in the clubs. But there we are at quarter of a penny right now. And, of course, HEX looking pretty good. Now, the other thing we have, of course, is Dip Catchers working on FlexNext, I think it is. FlexNext for the old HEX second layer on the old ETH chain, and that could add some value once that gets to market. So that's also a nice little pumpermental there. And of course, it's got the same thing that OA staked, and there's less supply around. So, EHEX looking pretty good. Now, versus ETH, let's have a look at ETH. Now, it's obviously on the ETH chain, so we're not looking at versus Pulse. We can see that, let's go to the log chart there. We can see that we're actually up against that too. So we actually sort of bottomed out around 6 zeros, 3,400. We're now at 6 zeros, 6,000 versus ETH. Which is not bad. So a little pump there. And of course, bring back the glory days, right? Bring back the glory days. This is back in the glory days, September 2021. And we were up at 3 zeros, 1650. We're down at 6 zeros, 6,000. We were up at 3 zeros, 1650. How about that? And that was a beautiful moment. I remember looking at the chart that very moment where it peaked. I did. I was looking at the chart. Many of you probably did. This goes, man, that's amazing. 52 cents or 56 cents, depending on where you're looking. But that was pretty crazy times. Anyway, so that's where we are right now. So yeah, let's see. We know that a good number of the HEX, the Ethereum whales have interacted in some way or another with HEX. I can't remember the exact number. Was it 30%, something like that? Ballpark. You can go double check. People have done some analysis on that, but pretty interesting things happening there. So that is where we are right now on the old HEX. Now, remember this regarding HEX, because these ETH acquisition vehicles are accumulating Ethereum, amount of Ethereum's dropping off in the market. That means there's less Ethereum around to go on the protocol. So HEX would be competing with things like ETH from other chains as well. But we do know someone that has a lot of ETH. Someone has had a lot of ETH. So anyway, this is where we are right now. So on the old ETH chart. So not bad. Now, that is kind of our coverage today. Hopefully that's been interesting. Let's go quickly to the daily on EHEX and see whether we can pull up the RSI on this one before we move on. I can't remember if I did it for PulseChain, but we're up currently at 59. So actually EHEX is looking really good, isn't it? Actually, you think about it with that structure there. And of course, this is on the daily now and plenty of room in the RSI to move as well. So the EHEX looking pretty good. What about PHEX? Let's go. We are on the daily. Yeah. So the PHEX as well. So, unless we get a full capitulation down the RSI, we're actually looking pretty good for a potential bounce from here. So maybe this weekend won't be so bad leading into the final week of September. And then we can bring on October and absolutely gun it on the old PulseChain. So let's have a little recap there. We can hold this line here at 3,500. Hold this long-term resistance become support. We've been testing it week after week for 5 weeks now. If we can hold that, it's game on. And we've got no SEC now. So yeah, let's see how we go. And you've got lots of bullish potential catalysts moving ahead. So and we've got these big whale launches as well. Very pretty cool. Now, Richard Hart's been putting out some pretty interesting things lately. So I don't know who's been annoying him. Someone has been annoying him. And 2 hours ago, he said logging in. This 2 hours ago, just 2 hours ago, logging in just to find people to block. So I don't know who's harassing him, but I don't even know how they find him. I know he's got some couple of back channel profiles, but it seems pretty crazy. So yeah, it is what it is. So that is happening at the moment. Obviously Richard's warning people not to interact on DuckDuckGo or Google and get on scam sites. Very clever scam sites there, just with a spelling difference. You'll get absolutely drained there, so be very careful there. Searching for PulseChain Bridge, for example, you really got to make sure you get the right links and save them to your favorites, and so you don't have to worry about Googling. Just be very careful of that. He's putting out posts like this. Post anything, stream, pump, moon, cry, green candles. He blocked me. I don't know why some people of you dum-dums think you can ignore the original post and spam. So he's obviously been spammed a lot lately. All right, so there's a threat where you guys share tips and tricks and things that you can't fix. you will be aware of infinite scammers that post fake support. So obviously, been a lot of that going on right now. So yeah, just be careful out there is all I would say. So that's been from Richard. So pretty cool. I think that's probably where we should wrap up the show. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And like I say, some people are like, you can't rely on Richard, but Richard's definitely on the field, and he's made a lot of moves as I just showed in the presentation. And we're looking forward to more moves in the future. Now, the timing may not suit what everyone would like, but we've got a lot of bullish catalysts happening. We've got the whales on the move in October. We've got bullish quarter expected. We've got Ethereum buying en masse. We've got so many pump mentals from the US government. We've got it's going to be just fine. So I think it's going to be a very bullish time ahead. And we'll see. We'll see how much of the sacrifice set is gone and how many of them are willing to let us go up in price before even Richard Hart makes any of these other moves that he might make in the future. And of course, the interest rate cuts just happened. That's always a little teaser from Richard because we know he loves the interest rate cut cycle. That is very, very important. And just maybe, we might get one of these, right?
You could get a God candle at any moment. You could get a giant green candle at any moment because it's easier to get them because it takes less economic energy because there's less of it for sale.
So you just never know. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'll catch you again tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to smash the follow, hit the subscribe, join up Discord, links in the video description, join Telegram, and we'll catch you for another great show tomorrow. And we'll come with some really other cool stuff that's happening on PulseChain, including probably Nexium Glow, which is the big launch of 10x leverage. Probably cover that. And we've got a couple other items that I mentioned earlier in the previous live stream as well. So we'll cover that too. All right. Peace out, everybody. Keep up the great work and catch you for another day in the office. Bye for now. Cheers.